Okay everybody, for the first part of the tutorial we have one section left, and by that I mean we're covering the first step section right now, and now we're going to do areas. We are going to be moving on to the next part in the next video, creating the system, and there's going to be talking about status values, attributes, and the different status effects and abilities and items and equipment, of course, the fun one. But for now we are going to do something that I wish I could kind of skip it. It's good to know how to do everything, and if you do look on the boards, you explicitly are warned to not skip any of the tutorials, so let's go ahead and cover them. This is just dealing with coloring some of the font and text and making some text display appear on the screen. So let's get rid of this for a second over here on my other computer monitor. And now we're going to go ahead and talk about areas. When you're making your game, you might wish to let your player know which area of the game he's in currently. So now we can do this with ORK using areas and area types. These are in the framework editor, and the logic is added to a scene using the area component. Notification about area can be displayed automatically as the player walks into an area. We can also use various different colors, just like you would if you're running a script of your own. Let's go ahead and go into the framework editor and go to game, and we'll go to the colors. We'll just start by adding the colors we're going to be using. So let's have 4 new ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's change color 2 to yellow. Just go ahead and select a shade of yellow. And we'll go ahead and do red. Whatever looks red to you. This one's gonna be green. And finally, let's do blue. We now need to create a new GUI box that will be used to display area notifications when the player walks into the area. So navigate to menus and GUI boxes, and we're just going to go ahead and copy our main menu GUI box. Copy. Let's call this one area notification GUI box. Height adjustment's going to be auto. Bounds are going to be 640, 800, 400, and 200. Let's anchor to the lower center. We will also change the name box settings. Set this to 00, 200, and 50 is fine here. Anchor to lower left. Relative bounds true. Relative to the upper left. Adjust width. Enable the setting. Adjust height. Also enabled. Okay, so we're changing the text. We're going to change to yellow. We're going to change the size to 15 and make it bold. I'll just save. Now we need to set up the default area notification layout. According to the tutorial on the website, the layout decides which things the notification will display. Each area can override the default layout with custom layout. Navigate to game settings and change the following. So navigate to game settings, and we'll change the following. Let's close everything so we can easily find what we're looking for. we need to use area settings, so let's expand that first. Show area notification enabled. GUI box, we're using the area notification GUI box. Visible time, keep it at 3 so that it's visible for 3 seconds. Show title, we want this to be true so we can display the name of the area's type. Change the text field. We're going to use this where it says %n. It's going to give us the area name as a result. The text, we'll be using some text codes to change the alignment and color of the text. You can actually read a little bit more about that on the website if you want to see a lot of different keys other than some of the ones that are here. I think that there's, let me bring that up. So yes, here's our text options. This is a good reference. So we have to edit the text here. Now, I am going to just copy and paste what it has you do, and I'll go ahead and add that to the description. So you can go ahead and copy and paste as well. Click OK. And that's it for the notification layout. I'm going to click Save Settings, just as a habit. Close this. Next, we are going to go ahead and set up some area types. So let's navigate over to World, Area Types. We need 2, so let's just add one to go with the one that's already by default. Area type 0 is going to be changed to Town. And we can go ahead and give it a description because the tutorial does that. Of course, I misspelled the word peaceful. Okay. And now area type 2 is going to be Field. An adventurous field. And that's it for the area types. So we're now going to use the area types in the area section. So if that's not abundantly clear to you, just try to remember that there's always going to be types of things. See how it says types, followed by, you know, like area types, areas, shop layouts, shops, log types, logs. As we talked about in an earlier tutorial, it's a pretty common theme in the ORK editor. I think that even if you don't always understand exactly everything that you are doing and why you're doing it, it comes to you in a clear moment after you just follow the tutorial the first time. So when I say that we're going to add areas to the world, just watch what I do. The tutorial says that we need 7 areas. So we're going to add 6 to what's already here. Now, let's just change the settings to the default one. We're going to change that one to Town Entrance. And you don't really necessarily have to add a description, but go ahead and at least put some text here for yourself so that you can see. I would put the description to help you, if you look back on this, you'll understand what you did and where you did it. Now, this is where the area settings are going to come into play. So I'll close this so you can see you have the notification layout, which we're not going to use because we're going to use the area settings. See, those are the 2 that we made in the area types. Area 0 is going to be the type of town. Now we can move on to the second area. We will call this tree square. And I'll just type rests below the shady tree. This is also a town area. Next up is the backyard. Follow this road to get to a town. Okay. To a town. So this is going to be the area type of field. Woody Road is the next one. Woody Road is a road through the woods. That is a field. Field. The Woody Valley, not to be confused with the road. This is a valley with woods. That's going to be a field as well. I forgot to add the road to town. I'm just going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and put road to town on number 5. I don't want that to upset anything. I don't think it will. We'll just be aware of it. And finally, we need a plain fields. Finally, no wood. And this is actually a field, so that's all we need to do. Let's save the settings, and we'll go ahead and just save the scene. Let us now go into the town scene, over into the actual scene. Open the town scene and use the ORK scene wizard to add 3 areas to the scene. Okay. So what we need to do is use the scene wizard, and we need to create the object, and then we need to go to area. So area 1, area 2, okay, area 3. Alright, so if we need to place these in the correct locations. Okay, so we have the first one highlighted. Let's place the first one here by this sort of tree in the back. And we'll place the second one here, kind of like by this tree in the middle. And I think we should expand that and make it a little bit bigger by making the radius bigger. There is a little bit of overlap. I don't think that's okay. No, we don't want that. So let's make this a little bit smaller. I think you just have to make sure they don't overlap. There's not really a set standard for, they need to be touching, I think. Not necessarily super touching, but they need to be really smack next to each other, so you don't have this awkward transition of, where is this at? Well, you know, it's not really anywhere in particular. Okay, that should be good. So if I look at all 3, you can see closely that they are pretty much There. Okay. Let's save the scene. Yes. Okay. So before we move on to the other scene, we have to make sure we give these the proper labels. So this area in the far bottom, so let me show you again. This area down here is definitely going to be town entrance. This larger area in the middle, it's going to be the tree square. And finally, the area in the very back by the hills, that's the backyard. So when we look at the labels over here, we see backyard, tree square, town entrance. You need to make sure you also place the area at the ground of the terrain so the player can collide and walk into them. So that we'll be able to receive the feedback that shows which area we're entering. Now we can save the scene. We're basically going to do the same thing with the field scene. Let's go to it. Alright, so let me zoom out here. Now I'm going to be creating 9 areas because we're going to actually use some of them more than once. So let me go ahead and place mine, and then I'll show you where I place them so that you can do the same. Again, we're going to just first go to the create object, add 9 areas. I'm not entirely sure about duplicating, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to create them individually. Because this is a framework, so someone can check me on this. It's possible that it has like its own special ID that's not showing up here publicly. That maybe doesn't always happen if you use duplicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just need 2 more. Okay, if we position, let's position this correctly. So the road going back to the town is here north, and that's going to be the first area. It's going to be entrance to town, or rather road to town. We can change the radius. To hit about like this. And also when you're doing this, just think about being in the game yourself. Think about the fact that, okay, the road to town, it wouldn't be a huge radius like this big. It's gonna just be right when you get to the spot that really is gonna be like your road to town. We need a woody valley. In your personal game, you might want to get things very perfect. I'm going to maybe it won't be as perfect as it should probably be if you're doing like a product for, you know, commercial product. Woody road. So a woody road is kind of like this road that goes through the woods here. So it covers about all of this area here through the woods. It's a little bit hard to see, but it looks like there's like a valley. Now I'm getting this information from a map that's on the tutorial, and you yourself can look here on tutorial 7. Okay, so I have all of my areas completed. They kind of look something like this by the time I got done with them. And If you really want to see where I got my reference from, I did use that map on tutorial 7. So you can see that they kind of just cover the areas that you're going to be walking in most of the time. Okay. Again, make sure that you place the areas at the ground of the terrain, and make sure that you can use a different collider if you want to. You can use like a box collider for this. So, you know, I can change this collider. Just make sure that it is a trigger. And you need to save your scene after you do these things. We can go ahead and hit the main menu to play it, but before we do that, let us start organizing a little bit. I'm gonna call this empty game object areas. I'll put in all the areas that I made. Okay. For now, that's the only organization I'll do. Personally, I like to organize things meticulously from the beginning, but just in case you are jumping in from a certain tutorial after reading, I want to keep it the way that it looks on the website. So with that, bearing that in mind, let us save everything, go to the main menu, and we're going to go ahead and hit play and see what happens. Oh, I need the so here's the tree square, here's the backyard. It's a little abrupt, you know, but it's a short little game. It tells us, let's change our window a little bit. So this is supposed to be the woody valley. Okay, so here's like the valley part. Well, maybe that wasn't super accurate. This was supposed to be the woody valley. I know that the woody road is coming up here eventually. I think this map is a lot bigger than I thought it was. Ah, here we go. Road to the woods. Okay, so that is everything for now. That's everything that we needed to do to get the game. It's everything we needed to do to get the game set up, the initial setup, so that we can now move on to covering status values and, you know, the math and all that stuff that is handled for you by ORK. And that's going to be like attacking and your experience and status values, and we're going to be doing some database editing, and we'll do that in the next tutorial. So thank you guys.